Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Trump and being convicted of things that Bill Clinton did, of a version that Joe Biden has done. Let's get into it. Hard Talk Radio, live in 4K.
Of the United States, Neil Kochel, part of our special coverage, here with Rachel, Nicole, Chris, and Andrew. Neil, May 30th, 2024, Donald J. Trump convicted on 34 felony counts. What does this verdict mean?
So, Ari, I think about it in three words: 34 for 45. 34 counts convicted for the 45th former president of the United States. It's never happened before in our history. And these are felony counts. These aren't slaps on the wrist. They're not misdemeanors. These are not minor things. As the prosecutor Steinglass said to the jury in his closing, Donald Trump may have been elected president because of these crimes, because of his hiding of these campaign contributions. And, Rachel has talked eloquently about the political implications. I don't understand that. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you what this means about the rule of law. I mean, my parents came here to this country precisely because of jury verdicts like this, because of the idea that no one is above the law, that a jury of one's peers can hold someone to account no matter who you are. And this jury has now decided that. And Ari, I think the most important point is they decided that against, and Trump was guilty, against the most difficult standard for the prosecution to show in all of American law. They had to show it beyond a reasonable doubt. They had to win all 12 jurors. One juror saying Trump didn't do it was enough for him not to be convicted. I know how hard that is. I did that in the George Floyd murder with my team. That's a scary standard, to do. But here it was met as it was in the Floyd case. And, that's such a tough standard, Ari. It's like, it's kind of like failing kindergarten. If you're a jury facing a jury trial, you got to kind of try to fail a jury trial if you're a criminal defendant. You got everything going for you. And yet Trump managed to do that. Yeah. And I think the last thing I'd just say is Chris Hayes' point about the faith in the system is right. I mean, that, I think this shows that the system works, but I suspect Trump's next move will be, as it always is, to denigrate the system, to attack the institutions, to attack the prosecution, to attack the jury system. And so don't pop our champagne corks yet, because Trump's going to run against this system. Mm-hmm. And our job as lawyers is to make sure that people understand how that system works and how justice was done today.
Neil Kochel weighing in here for the first time, and we appreciate you making time to do that. Thank you. We're back with our full panel. Neil mentioned what Chris had said, and as well, Nicole, you think about we're moments away from Alvin Bragg, the DA who brought this case. It was going to be controversial, probably either way. Mm-hmm. I would note, if his name is not super familiar, if you're watching and can't even conjure exactly what he looks like, that is because he has followed the Jack Smith playbook and the Bob Mueller playbook before that. DA Bragg spoke once regarding this case. It was when they announced the prosecution, and it was very spare. So spare, I'll remind people, he was criticized at the time for not elaborating further about the theory, about the campaign aspects, things that we then later learned about in detail in court, where he let his team, the assistant DAs, do the talking. And so we're scheduled to hear from him moments away. They released one tweet, which you read earlier, where they said guilty on all counts. Very businesslike. But this will be the first time we hear from this DA who's let the evidence and his team do the talking.
I mean, he's been underestimated. You've interviewed him. You've interviewed him as well. And to talk to him, he wants to talk to you about other things. He's not, Donald Trump relies on and projects onto everyone else what is inside of him. And what's inside of him is a possessed and obsessed partisan actor. Alvin Bragg just doesn't fit the mold. told. I mean, he did this because the facts and the law supported this. Again, not in a timeline that a lot of his supporters and detractors would have liked. I think some people would have liked to have seen the case that Pomerantz had investigated go to trial sooner than Alvin Bragg brought it. But he was convinced. I think there was some reverse engineering, and I say that not as a lawyer, of the Michael Cohen account. There seemed to be meticulous corroboration if you read every transcript and if you looked at every witness. And I think that it's a little more clear, and we'll hear from him himself, that maybe that was what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, the Alvin Bragg here, before we got the jury's verdict, you were saying if there is one guilty verdict among these 34 counts, that is a victory for the prosecution. That counts as a conviction, and that is what the prosecution is aiming for. When it came in as all 34, that's obviously something more than a victory for the prosecution. It's a vindication of their approach.
Okay. Republicans called Trump trial a sham. He was convicted by a kangaroo court. Numerous Republican legislators have shown their support for Donald Trump after a New York jury found presidential nominee guilty on 34 counts of fraud. According to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, the Manhattan trial was an attempt to sabotage the former president's bid for re-election. Abbott said the trial was a sham perpetrated by the incumbent President Joe Biden to strike out against a political opponent. Russia Today reports prosecutors allege that former president illegally covered up money payment that his former attorney Michael Cohen made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in the weeks before the 2016 presidential election to ensure her silence about an alleged affair from a decade prior. Trump has denied that he had an affair with Daniels, and his legal team has said they will appeal the verdict. The Republican presidential nominee fellow party members took to social media to slam the verdict. This was a sham show trial. The kangaroo court will never stand on appeal, Greg Abbott wrote on X, formerly Twitter, early Friday. Americans deserve better than a sitting U.S. president weaponizing our justice system against a political opponent, all to win an election, he said, calling on voters to fire Joe Biden in November. GOP member and House Speaker Mike Johnson also slammed the trial, calling it a lawfare. Democrats cheered as they convicted the leader of the opposing party on ridiculous charges, predicted on the testimony of a disbarred convicted felon. He said, referring to Conan's part in the trial, the weaponization of the U.S. justice system is a hallmark of the Biden administration. The further evidence that Democrats will stop at nothing to silence dissident and crush their political opponents, Johnson wrote on X. The thing is, I mean, Michael Cohen used to work for Trump, and Trump expected Cohen to take a dive and do decades in prison, and Cohen wasn't going to do that. Okay. What do you expect was going to happen? Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said his support for Donald Trump is stronger than ever following the sham trial. Trump said the trial was rigged and a disgraceful trial. This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who is corrupt. It was a rigged trial. Disgrace. Wouldn't give us venue change. Venue change. What's that going to do moving the trial to a different location? We're at 5% or 6% in the district in this area. This was rigged. Disgraceful trial. Real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. They know what happened here. Everybody knows what happened here. Let's hear what Trump had to say.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a...
You're not corrupt, Trump. You're not corrupt. What did you do with those T visas, Trump? What did you do with the T visas? 4 to 6 months for an illegal to get a T visa. You know, those trafficking victims of human trafficking. They would get a T visa to help them be able to work in America. Under the Trump administration, from 4 to 6 months, it went to 4 years. It's a whole bunch of dirt. And I do think it was a sham trial. I'll tell you why.
The venue change, we were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
You got stuff with Joe Biden and his daughter. Okay. And, you know, I believe, yeah, he did abuse his daughter. There's a lot of sick things with Joe Biden, okay? You got the Tara Reid situation. Why isn't Joe Biden having a trial of his own? That's something to think about. Why isn't Joe Biden having a trial of his own? Why didn't the Republicans have him dragged to court? Just asking. Is this something that I have a question about? Okay. They give us a person that's a liar and a crook, and also a person like Joe Biden to pick from. That's the real sham here. They keep giving us this left-right paradigm. You either got to pick herpes or HIV. Whoever you pick, your country is screwed over. You are going to be screwed as an American. That's what I'm tired of. Throughout the decades, they always give you these two choices, and both of these choices are screwed up. You don't think that's a game there? You don't think the game is rigged? The only thing I hope is like nothing happens to Trump, that he is still breathing through all of this. That's what I hope and pray for. Because you got these MAGA nuts here that are just itching to live their fantasy of the election was rigged and we got to fight for the country. Like it's 1776 all over again. Anyway, tell me what you think. Anything you want to know about this channel is in the description box. Later. Like, share, comment, subscribe.